So how do we nurture spiritual practices in our approach as leaders and facilitators? Well, it's about creating time in our sessions for silence and not being afraid of that, for solitude, for children to be sitting on their own and not being afraid of quiet. It's not all about noise. It's about co-creating spaces with children and young people and involving them in decision making and choices. And what I mean by co-creating is being in good conversation with them about what they want to do, how they want the space to be shaped, what do they want going forward, and what's important to them. It's about creating time for children and young people to explore vocation and calling from God, and to use that language with them, for them to serve and respond and to take actions on the things and issues that matter to them, both with their peers and with adults. Children and young people know that they can do things. Look at Greta Thunberg. But also, they also want to do it with adults and alongside adults. They want to take action. They want to respond to the difficult things in the world. It's also about big conversations, about death, about life, about sexuality. Where are we creating the spaces for them to talk about these things? It's created activities using imagination, space for awe and wonder, for science and for play. You know, putting out a load of sort of art materials and then setting up a conversation around death and letting them go with it. It's also storytelling. A big part of our faith is storytelling, and it's about story inhabiting, actually being in the story. You know, when Jesus talks in the Gospels, and tries to get people thinking about things, the first thing Jesus does is starts off, a man was walking along a road, brings you straight into the story, and you inhabit the story, and you inhabit the understanding through that. And it's about sharing our faith, about our faith stories, our own personal testimonies and others around, and also about the everyday experiences that we have. It's about understanding of spiritual disciplines, the rhythms and rituals of our faith. Children and young people love rhythm and they love ritual. You know, they'll have regular, pizza nights or, a regular film night or whatever. They like the rituals. It's about us using our Methodist way of life, of gathering and responding to our calling in Methodism, and looking at how this might fit and flow through our sessions. How do we bring this rhythm and ritual through our sessions? It's understanding our role as leader and facilitator and curator of a space, and the role of households and families in this, and our church leadership and our congregations. And it's all of them being part of this process of being companions in Christ with children and young people, and not just us on our own. And it's important for peer time and intergenerational learning time, and for us to be in peers, in talking together and in action together, and with adults in action and talking together, in mission planning, in going out into our community. Children can do this and young people can do this, but it's important for them to do it with adults as well. So, what are the characteristics of this style of children youth ministry leadership? So I think it's listening skills. That's really important, and we are really good at that. Creating deep and brave listening spaces where we don't mind being vulnerable within boundaries. It's creating spaces for hard conversations and being prepared to say, I don't know the answers, and that being okay. It's about spiritual formation spaces as a process, using a rhythm of spiritual practices to explore awe and wonder, use imagination and creativity, to have quiet times and play, and to listening to one another for God. And also expecting God to speak and leaving space for this, and not always filling the quiet time with words. It's about patience, and we all know we need patience when we're working with children and young people, to let things unfold in their own time, not to be nervous if the conversation doesn't flow when we ask a question, and not worrying about having the answer. It's okay not to. Acceptance is another characteristic, accepting children as they are, and for us to model this across the church, where the church puts pressure on children to be quiet in certain spaces or to not run around the worship space. It's leaving things open-ended. We're not teaching a point, but engaging in a process of discovery. And our primary thing is about how do we enable them to engage in a process of discovery. It's about partnering. You're not on this on your own. You're co-creating with children and young people. You're involving the whole church in the discussion about this and a strategy and approach. And you're feeling supported by this when everybody understands what we're trying to achieve together. And it's also about having an understanding of spiritual development and faith formation. How do we equip ourselves in this knowledge and this understanding? What do we need to read or think about? How do we have a book club together where we talk about children's spirituality and spirituality of youth, or what's going on in youth culture at the moment? Creating awareness of spirituality and spiritual disciplines and the importance of nurturing children's spirituality across the church. Then it's a whole church and congregation responsibility. So how are we equipping the church and how are we equipping ourselves so that we don't feel isolated in what we're doing or out of our depth? I think we're going to just move into another time of breakout groups for conversation, and wonder if, John, you could just copy the questions into the chat. So for this time, I want you to look again at what stands out for you in what we've talked about in, I've talked about in characteristics of this style of leadership, and what we include in these spiritual places. What do you recognise in the way you are, the way you do things? What do you recognise in the church that you're in? What's there, what's missing? And then to look at what questions does this raise for you in your ministry with children and young people as you prepare again for physical meeting. So